All right, I know that you are tired of living paycheck to paycheck and that you're ready to take control of your finances today. So you are definitely in the right spot, because I'm going to share with you 5 simple and effective tips that are going to allow you, yes, you watching this video, to save more money and help you reach your financial goals. So with that being said, let's get started. All right, you guys, so the very first thing that you're going to want to do is that you are going to want to track your income and your expenses. So what you're going to want to do is you are going to want to write down exactly how much income you have coming in each and every single month, and exactly what your expenses are each and every single month. Now, it doesn't stop there. What you are going to want to do in this step is you are also going to want to identify exactly what areas that each one of your expenses falls into, and then you want to look at those areas and say, hey, within these different categories that I have expenses, where are some areas or opportunities where I could afford to cut back or reduce the amount that I'm spending in these areas? And doing this is going to allow you to save more money and be very clear about and very intentional about exactly where your money is going. All right, you guys, so the very next thing that you're going to want to do is that you are going to want to create a budget. And I know that's not the most exciting thing to do, but it's very necessary if you want to save more money and improve your finances. So what you want to do is you want to look at all of the areas that you have expenses in month after month. And what you want to do is say, okay, let me create a realistic spending limit for each one of those categories, such as housing, food, entertainment, so on and so forth. And like I said, just make the spending limit in each one of those categories realistic. The goal here is not to be super strict or to like just loose with the budget, but the goal is to just give yourself a general guideline of what you are hoping to spend in each one of those categories, or exactly how much you would hope to spend in each one of those categories month after month. All right, you guys, so the third tip in this video is going to be for you to do your best to stick to your budget. Now, when it comes to sticking to your budget, this is, like I said, you're trying to do your best. Like, it does not mean that you are going to always, month after month, always stick exactly to your budget. You know, life happens, things happen, numbers are going to go up and down. Some months you might be within your budget, some months you might go over your budget. But the general guideline here is just try your best. And I mean, hey, it's just simple as that. Do the best that you can to try to stay within your budget. All right, you guys, so the very next step that you're going to want to do is that you are going to want to set up automatic transfers from your checking account over to your savings account. Now, what is the whole reason behind this? So the reason behind doing this and setting up automatic transfers from your checking to your savings is because the goal here is to save more money and to do it as consistently and as effortlessly as possible. So to remove yourself from the task of having to try to remember, you know, every single pay period or once a month or however much the frequency is, but to remove yourself from having to think of just one more thing to do, say, oh, I have to remember to transfer over this amount of money because I want to save it, is like, you don't have to be bothered with that task. So what you're going to want to do is pick a dollar amount that you are very comfortable with based on your income and your budget that you've looked at and said, okay, I could comfortably afford to transfer consistently from my checking account over to my savings account the dollar amount that you came up with, and then just set that automatic transfer up and just let it go continuously. All right, you guys, so the very next thing that you're going to want to do is that you are going to want to evaluate your spending, your budget, and the progress that you are making. And then you want to look at those results and decide, are you happy with the progress that you are making, or do you need to make adjustments? And then if that is the case and you need to make adjustments, just adjust accordingly based on the results that you want to have and the results that you are getting. Hey, what's up, you guys? So in today's video, I'm going to be sharing with you guys the #1 reason why most people are broke. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get right into it. All right, you guys. So look, different people are going to have different versions or understandings of what being broke means. To one person, to have only $1 million means they're broke. To someone else, to have $100,000 means they're broke. To someone else, to have 20 bucks means they're broke. And to someone else, no, broke means I literally have no money. So obviously there's like different, you know, variations or different understandings of what broke is from one person to another. So to put this video in context, I'm gonna go ahead and say broke is being after you've paid the things that you need to pay in your life, or maybe even just a little bit after that, like maybe you paid all like your mandatory living expenses, like where you live, you know, your car payment, you know, your house payment, your rent, whatever it is, like groceries, you know, like gas for your car, all those different things, like all the things that you are going to pay each and every single month. After you have paid those, and maybe you've done like a thing or two after that, or bought yourself something, you find yourself basically broke with no money. Like that's it, you got $0 left. So that's the way we're going to consider and refer to being broke in this video. So why do most people find themselves in this situation of being broke each and every single month or each and every single pay period? Well, it doesn't obviously come down to the fact that they're not making money, because they have some money. They're obviously spending it, you know? So it's not about that, hey, I'm not making money. And it's also not that they're not making enough money, because like I just said, there's people that have a lot of money and they still, you know, they're very high income earners and they find themselves broke. And there's people that are significantly lower income earners and they still find themselves broke. So there's obviously something well beyond the fact of like how much you are earning that like determines whether or not you find yourself in the position of being broke. So that's exactly the point of this video, is to find out exactly what is that thing that is causing people to find themselves in the situation where they become broke. Because I don't want that for you guys. I don't want you to be broke. You know, I know what that feels like, and like I said, it's not a good feeling. So that's why we need to go ahead and get to the bottom of this, because being broke sucks. So all right, so what does it come down to? So the number one reason why most people are broke, it simply comes down to the fact that based on the amount of income that you're earning, you are basically living completely like to the max of that amount of income that you're earning, or even in some cases beyond, and that's like a terrible situation to be in. We don't even want to go into that. But for most people, whatever the dollar amount of income that they're earning, they're spending absolutely, completely, 100% of that dollar amount each and every single pay period and each and every single month on paying for all the things that they need to. So essentially, like if they're, you know, for like a reference or an example would be like, let's say some, you know, a couple or a family makes $5,000 a month. Well, after they've paid all the things that they must pay, like whatever, like we talked about earlier in the video, you know, rent, house payment, car insurance, cell phone bills, all these things, right? So you pay all your monthly expenses, and when you're all said and done, you're basically maxed out right at that dollar amount, you know? So you're earning $5,000 a month as a couple, you know, take home pay, and then you are spending $5,000 a month. So essentially, after you've paid for everything, you are broke. You have no more money left. And this is true of people that are lower income earners, and it's true of people that are higher income earners. So it's not about so much how much or how little you earn. What it comes down to is like, you, in order to not be broke, like in order to put yourself in a situation where you will never be broke, you simply must do this one thing. And what is this one thing? You have to live on a lower dollar amount of your income than the amount that you were earning. So like in the example that we just talked about, if a family or a couple is making $5,000 take home pay, well then in order for them to not be broke, they must live on some dollar amount that is lower than that 5,000. Maybe like a really good, you know, example would be, all right, instead of living on 5,000, maybe they're living on, you know, 4,500. So that frees up $500 a month for them each and every single month. And then obviously what they use that $500 a month on is totally up to them. You know, maybe they continue to save it up, then they want to use it on vacations, or they might say, hey, you know, we're going to invest that $500 a month so we can start building wealth. You know, that would be a really good idea. So then that way, you know, ultimately you could reach financial freedom and not have to work forever. But nevertheless, the number one reason why most people are broke, it basically comes down to not because they're not earning enough or not because they're earning too little. It simply comes down to their expenses versus their income are like maxed out, like they're equal to each other. And in order to break that cycle of being broke, you have to live below the dollar amount that you are earning. So your mandatory monthly living expenses must be less than the amount of income that you earn and you bring home each and every single month. And that is the number one reason why most people are broke. Hey, what's up you guys? So in this video, we're going to be going over and discussing the differences between someone who is cheap and someone who is frugal. So with that being said, look beneath this video, find that thumbs up button, give that thumbs up button a quick tap for me. And then also, if you're new here to the channel and you're not currently subscribed, look on the bottom right side of your screen, find that subscribe button, give that subscribe button a quick tap for me so that way you'll be notified by YouTube each and every time I upload a video, just like you're currently watching right now. And with that being said, let's go ahead and get right into today's video. Alright you guys, so we're going to go ahead and we're going to start off with someone who is cheap. So what exactly does it mean, you know, when you call someone cheap or you say, hey, that person is a cheapskate? Well, what it ultimately gets right down to it, like when you get right down to it, when someone is a cheap person or they're known as being a very cheap person, really what people are saying when they're, describing a person as that type of way means from like a financial standpoint, this person, they typically are looking, when they're making purchases, they're only looking at them from like the dollar amount value being spent in total. So like for like a very like basic plain example, let's just say like they're going out and they're shopping for like, a cell phone. They're going to say, okay, there's all these different price ranges of cell phones. They're going to say, okay, you got cell phones from, $100 all the way up to $1,000. And you're going to say like, all right, well, you know what? Like, I just want to spend the lowest possible dollar amount necessary to still get a phone. So they're like, hey, if I could get a cell phone for $100, that's the one that the cheap person is leaving out of the store with, because they're solely basing their, their purchase on like getting the item that they want, the cell phone in this, example, and they want to spend the lowest possible dollar amount necessary to get that item. So obviously in this example, the lowest dollar amount to get the cell phone would be $100. So that is exactly what the cheap person is going to do. They're going to buy that $100 cell phone. And obviously if you're someone who's buying a $100 cell phone, that cell phone is going to be significantly restricted to like the features, the quality, the overall like features that are available on like a phone that is $100. So the person is not looking to get the greatest product or the greatest overall experience or even the greatest quality. They're just simply looking to get whatever that product is. In this example, it would be the cell phone. So they're like, hey, I wanted a cell phone and I got a cell phone. It's probably not going to last that long. The quality is going to be pretty poor. And like I said, it's going to lack a lot of features that, other phones would have that would be in a lot higher of, a price range. So that is like to paint a really quick picture of like someone who is cheap, or in other words known as a cheapskate. It's someone who solely looks to get like the item that they want for the lowest possible dollar amount necessary, and while still being able to get the item that they want. But that doesn't mean that they're aiming for like quality, or that they're thinking, long term, like how long is this item going to last me. They're just solely thinking short term, like today in this moment, I'm going to get this item or this product or this service, and I'm spending the lowest possible dollar amount necessary to be able to get this thing. And that is a very like short condensed version, or a way to explain to you someone who is cheap. They think short term. They don't think about quality. They don't think about, long-term value. They just think about getting what they need for the lowest possible dollar amount necessary. And this is like a very good description of someone who is cheap. Okay, so now on the other hand of being cheap, you have the person who is frugal. So what exactly is a frugal person? So when someone is a frugal person, although it might seem like, hey, frugal seems like they're just like the cheap person, there's a very big difference between the two. So a frugal person is very unlike the person who is cheap. The frugal person doesn't think just short term about their purchases. They're thinking very differently. They're thinking more longer term when it comes to their approach of spending money to make a purchase. So the frugal person is thinking like, okay, I don't want to just spend the lowest possible dollar amount, to get the item that I'm hoping to get. What they're thinking is like, I want to spend the lowest possible dollar amount that I need to get the type of item that I want, but I also want to know that I'm getting a great quality, a great service, a great product, a great whatever, the overall experience is going to be great, and that it is ideally going to last them, a substantial amount of time based on the amount of money that they're going to spend. So like in this example that we used with the cell phone, the person is going to say, okay, yeah, there might be cell phones that are $100, there might be cell phones that are $1,000, but then the frugal person is going to say, okay, that $100 cell phone, it lacks a whole lot of features. A lot of features that I might need or really like could find useful. And they're gonna say the quality looks really poor on that phone. It looks very cheap. Like the buttons are probably gonna break very easily, and like it just overall does not show any signs of quality. And they're gonna say, I don't really want any part with buying something like that. And then they might like look up some of the higher price range phones and then say, okay, well, hey. They might find like, let's say for example, it's a $500 phone, and they say, hey, well, this is definitely not a $100 phone, and it's definitely not, a $1,000 phone. It's like a $500 or a $600 phone, right? And they say, hey, this phone has a lot of really great features. It's a lot of the things that I need. It doesn't have a whole lot of extra things on here that I don't need. So and then the quality, it's looking like it's a pretty well made, cell phone. It has, it's very durable, it looks good. So they're like, hey, this looks like there's a lot of value in here. It has everything that I need. It doesn't have a bunch of unnecessary things that, are being marketed to me as like, hey, look at all these other extra things that you're going to get that I have no use for. So then it's like you're not paying for things that are unnecessary for you individually. And they're going to say, okay, hey, this is where the really good, price value, the price point is like right here, because they're saying, okay, I'm still able to get a cell phone. It's new, it's nice, it holds really great, it has really great quality, and it's going to give me all the features that I'm looking for in a cell phone, probably even a few extra that you didn't even expect. And you say, hey, I'm not spending 100, but I'm also not spending 1,000 either. And then you're like, hey, this is gonna last me, some time, and I'm gonna get a lot of good use out of it. So the frugal person is gonna say, okay, sure, it would be nice to only spend 100, but if I only spend 100, that is not going to give me the type of value that I'm looking for, both long term and even feature wise. So they're going to say, okay, I am much better, significantly better off spending the $500 or $600 to get a significantly better quality, cell phone in this case, with a lot better features, and it's going to create a much better overall experience for that owner of that cell phone. And this is the difference between someone who is cheap and someone who is frugal. The frugal person doesn't look to spend the lowest possible dollar amount when they're making their purchases. They are looking to spend as low as necessary to still buy an item or a product or a service that is going to provide them with great quality, that is going to last a period of time, and then that way they don't have to make these purchases as often. And as long as the product is good and it's durable and it's going to last time, and they're not looking to spend the lowest for that type of item, and they're not looking to spend the most for the type of item. They're trying to find like that sweet spot right in the middle where they're still getting, that need that they need to be met. They're still being able to buy that product or that service or that thing, but not on the very high end or not on the very low end where they're not ultimately going to have their needs being met. And this is basically, again, the simple overall condensed description of someone who is frugal. So hey, let me know your guys' opinion and your overall thoughts on someone who is cheap, someone who is frugal, down in the comment section below. Let me know, are you like that cheapskate person, or are you much more like the frugal person? Let me know down in the comment section below. And hey, like I said at the beginning of this video, if you're new here to the channel and you're not subscribed, I would really like to grow this channel, get this channel up to 2,000 subscribers. So hey, help me out by finding that subscribe button on the bottom right side of the screen. Give that subscribe button a quick tap for me, so that way you'll be notified each and every time I upload a video. Alright you guys, so first on our list is paying credit card interest. Now, why do we want to avoid paying credit card interest? Well, because simply put, we want to make sure that we keep as much of our money as possible, so then we have that money, so then that way we could get rich and build wealth for ourselves. So how are we going to make sure that we don't pay any credit card interest? Well, what we're going to do is we're going to make sure when we're using our credit card and it gets to the point where our bill is going to be due, that we pay off our credit card statement in full each and every single month. And that's how we're going to avoid paying any interest on our credit card. Alright you guys, so second on our list is going to be designer brand names of clothing, just designer brand shopping in general. Now, why would you want to cut out or not spend your money on designer brands? Well, it simply comes down to the fact that purchasing designer brands or very popular brands compared to alternatives is that the popular and designer brand names are going to be extremely expensive. Now, if you could go out and you can look and find an alternative brand that still gives you a quality product for significantly less, well then I think that's a better use of your money, because essentially you're going to get the same performance, the same use out of the item that you're going to purchase, but for significantly less than how much it cost you, or if you wanted to go ahead and buy that designer brand name. So avoid buying brand name items as much as possible, because at the end of the day, you want to use your money in the most efficient way possible and keep as much of your money as you can. So avoid buying designer brand name items. Alright you guys, so next up on our list is going to be buying alcohol. Now, I get it, you might want to kick back, relax, buy yourself a beer or whatever, but let me tell you why this is a bad idea. Because spending your money on alcohol has two negatives to it. So one, it's obviously not going to benefit your health, so that's reason number one. It's only going to hurt you if you consume it. Now, reason number two is because alcohol has a very heavy tax on it. So you as a consumer, you pay that tax. So when you purchase something like alcohol, I mean, you could walk into a bar, you're going to pay $10 or more for just one single bottle of beer. Now that's a very heavy price to spend on just buying something that's not going to benefit you or help you in any way whatsoever. It's not going to help you build your wealth. It's not going to help you make more money. And even worse, it's also going to like hurt your body and hurt your health overall. So why would you ever want to spend your money on something like drinking alcohol? I would say avoid it at all costs because it's not going to benefit you in any way. So be sure to cut out your spending on alcohol. Alright, you guys, so next up on our list is shopping at overpriced grocery stores. Now, what do I mean exactly? Well, so when it comes to grocery shopping, I'm sure you have more than one type of grocery store in your town. And if not, I don't know where exactly you live, and honestly, that sucks because you probably live like in the middle of nowhere. But aside from a situation like that, most people have options when it comes to shopping at the grocery store. Now, if this is true and you're not that one person who lives like out in the middle of nowhere without options, then you should be able to look at what are your options when it comes to going to the grocery store and going grocery shopping and say, okay, let me go to the very best grocery store that's going to give me the best products possible for the lowest price. And then that way you don't compromise the products or what you're going to be purchasing, but at the same time you're also not going to be paying a premium by going to just the most expensivest grocery store in town. And if by you doing this means you're never going to be spending your money on just like overpriced items just because this place decides like, hey, we just want to mark the item up and try to make as much money as possible by offering the same item that another store is offering for significantly less. So do your research, find the grocery store in your town that is basically offering the value or the good deals, and you want to go grocery shopping on a regular basis at those grocery stores. So never spend your money on overpriced groceries. Alright, you guys, so next up on our list is going to be a really, really terrible way for you guys to spend your money, and I hope none of you guys that are watching this video spend your money on this area. And if you are, you absolutely must cut it out because it's a terrible way for you to spend your money. So what exactly am I talking about? I'm talking about spending your money on something like lottery tickets, and I'm talking about spending your money on gambling. Now, I don't think it's going to take me to talk about this subject very much to explain why this is terrible, because I would hope that it would be a no-brainer to you guys. But in case there's anybody that doesn't realize why this is terrible, so when you spend your money on something like lottery tickets or gambling, it's truly a lose-lose situation. So you're going to go ahead and gamble your money, put your money on the line for the hopes of gaining something, and like basically every single time it's a lose-lose situation. You put your money out, you lose the game on whatever it is, slot machine, online betting, whatever it is, sports betting, whatever the situation is. You bet that money, you lose that money, you didn't get anything in return, and you cost yourself, the opportunity cost of like taking that money and investing it in a way that would grow your wealth for you. So that's a lose-lose situation. The same is true when you purchase lottery tickets. You buy a lottery ticket, you scratch it off, or however it works. You ultimately put out your money. You got essentially nothing. You got some piece of paper, you scratched it, you didn't get anything, you lost your money, and you lost even more because of the opportunity cost that you could have had took that money and instead invested it into something that was going to grow wealth for you. So it's just like a terrible scenario. It's like a terrible way, to spend your money. It's just a complete waste of money, and it's like a very hidden cost. Like the opportunity cost is very hidden within spending your money on something like purchasing lottery tickets or gambling. Just avoid it at all costs. It even irritates me even talking about the subject. So just do me a favor. Do not spend your money on something like lottery tickets or gambling. Alright, you guys. So look, next up on our list is going to be smoking or tobacco type products. Now, this subject right here is very similar like the alcohol type subject because essentially you're going to get the same outcome. Smoking and using tobacco type products is going to both hurt your health from like, a health perspective, and even worse, you're going to go out and you're going to purchase this product to then cause yourself to have these health problems. So why would you ever want to spend your hard-earned money to ultimately just hurt yourself? Like, you wouldn't want to do that, and like logically that makes no sense. So just avoid spending your money on smoking or tobacco type products whatsoever. And if that wasn't bad enough, the opportunity cost that you could be using that very same money that you're now using on smoking or tobacco type products, you could be using that money to invest and grow and build your wealth. So it's just like a complete terrible way to spend your money. So just avoid it at all costs, and do me a huge favor, never spend your money on smoking or tobacco type products. So next up on our list is going to be spending your money on buying lunch every single day. Now, why would I say that you should never spend your money on buying lunch every single day? Because obviously, yes, you are at work and you need to eat. Yes, I totally get that. But does that mean that you need to spend your money on buying lunch every single day by going out to eat? This is a terrible idea. You should never be spending your money on buying lunch every single day. What you should do as a better option is, while you are at the grocery store shopping for the week, be sure to plan out what you want to eat for lunch, and that way it will be significantly cheaper for you to go ahead, buy those items at the grocery store, prepare your lunch at home, take it with you, and you will notice the cost is significantly less compared to if you go out and while you're at work you're like, okay, it's my lunchtime, let me go ahead to wherever and go purchase some food. Because the odds are, if you go out and you purchase lunch out and about somewhere, you're going to spend an average of like $15 to $20 every single day when you go out and have lunch. And that's assuming you didn't go and get like breakfast or any other type of thing like after work or anything like that. But just simply buying lunch every single day, you're probably looking at like $15 a day on the minimum if you just get yourself some basic meal with a drink. Now, if you do this 5 days a week, assuming you work 5 days a week, so you're looking at 5 days of doing this, so you're like $75 a week for just one person buying lunch every single day. So this is a very expensive like habit and a way of going about doing things. And although you're not wasting your money on buying something bad, and it's not like, oh, you're making like a bad decision in that sense, but it's a very expensive way to go about executing buying your lunch. So instead of going out there and buying food the expensive way for you to have lunch, make the smarter financial decision, buy your lunch, and you could create that very same similar type lunch at home from buying the food at the grocery store, preparing it yourself, and then that way you maybe even come away with more food because you prepared it versus as the restaurant or something giving you a smaller portion and costing you a lot more for it. So be smart, go to the grocery store, buy that food yourself, prepare it at home, and take your lunch with you. All right, you guys. So next up on our list is buying an overpriced home. So why would I say to never buy an overpriced home? Not simply just because like, hey, you don't want to like pay more for the home than it's worth. That's bad enough. But there's a little more to it. So what exactly am I talking about? So when you purchase an overpriced home, or in other words, a home that you basically can't afford, this is what happens. So you move into that home because you're like, whatever, your family's like, hey, I love this home, and you want to get this home for your family because you want to make your family happy. Well, the problem happens when you move in and you have to start making that monthly mortgage payment. So what happens is essentially you become what's called house rich, cash poor. Now you move in, sure, your family loves the house, you're like, oh, it's great, it's a great home, and it's in a nice area, everyone's so happy. But the problem is that that house is so expensive to you because basically in order just for you to make that mortgage payment, it takes up majority of your income. So it eats up the bulk of your income. And because it eats up the bulk of your income, it leaves you with very little of your income left. So this is why it's called house rich, cash poor, because essentially you're left with very little cash. What ultimately ends up coming as a result of this is you feel the stress because you have so many other things that you need to spend money on and you don't have very much money left. And even worse, now you just, not only do you only have a little bit of income left to spend on the other things that you need to, but even worse, you don't have money to spend income on things that you want to do. So essentially you're very, very restricted, and this all comes back to, and that leads to like you being very stressed because you're like, okay, so I gotta pay the payment, and then it's like, oh, I gotta pay these other things, and then like, oh, I want to do these other things, or my family wants to do these other things, and I can't because I don't have the money to do it. So you do not want to put yourself in a situation where you are house rich, cash poor. It's very stressful, and it basically will cause you to like resent the entire situation that you're in and that you ever purchased that overpriced home to begin with. So just avoid buying an overpriced home so you prevent that situation from ever coming about. All right, you guys. So next up on our list is going to be buying a new car. So you should never spend your money on buying a new car. Now, why would I tell you that you should never spend your money on buying a new car? So it comes down to this. So basically, when you are not already rich and wealthy, spending your money on something like a new car, it's detrimental to your financial life. And this is why. Because one, new cars are expensive. They cost, on average, at least like $500 plus each and every single month for your car payment. Then you're talking about another $150 to like $200 a month for insurance. And then assuming you have like a gas car, you're talking about another few $100s a month on gas. So when you factor all that in, you're talking about roughly like $1,000 a month each and every single month on just like your total expenses associated with the car. Now, what makes this even worse is like that vehicle that you purchase, whatever, like let's just say hypothetically, like you purchased like a $60,000 car. Well, you know, the second you drove that car off the lot, like the car immediately goes down in value, and it continues to go down in value each and every single year. So this is like a terrible, terrible way for you to go ahead and spend your money on something like this, when it's like you're putting your money out, you know, investing your money into something and just watching it continually day by day become worth less and less. So, and the only thing that that car, like the only real purpose that that vehicle serves you is getting you from wherever you are to wherever you want to go. So like say for example, you're at home, you need to get to work, and then that car, then you use the car to get to work, and then you use the car to get back home. So it's like, why would you ever want to spend as much as possible just to have like a nice vehicle to get you from here to there and then back, and pay a very heavy premium for that? And even worse, now that you've paid the premium for it, it just becomes worth less and less and less over time. So it's a very expensive, terrible waste of money to purchase a new car. So avoid spending your money on a new car at all costs. All right, you guys. So look, I want to see how many of you guys are still watching at this point in the video, and I hope you are, because that tells me you are very excited about finding out exactly the 10 things that you should never be spending your money on. So we're coming up to number 10, and if you are still watching at this point in the video, thank you so much. I hope you give this video a like, and also if you're new to this channel and you have not already subscribed, be sure to find that red subscribe button on the bottom right side of your screen. Give that red subscribe button a quick tap for me. That way YouTube will notify you each and every time I upload a video. So now that you've made it to this point in the video, head down to the comment section below and comment the number 10. You could put it in, you know, the numerical form. You could, or just type it out, doesn't matter. Just put the number 10, so that lets me know that you made it all the way to the 10th thing that you should never be spending your money on. So here we are at number 10, and the 10th thing that you should never be spending your money on is timeshares, because timeshares are terrible. They're just a big, huge financial scam. They basically are just like trying to sell you this idea of like, hey, you could like have the availability to be able to come and stay here at these select times, and all you got to do is just basically pay us this continual ongoing fee for that option to be able to stay here. And they like really push this idea and make it seem like it's just so great, and that, oh, look where you're going to be able to stay, look at all the benefits. And it's like, it's a scam. You know, it's very, very similar to like them selling like you a gym membership to someone where like they don't really care if you go to the gym or not, and they know that most people are not going to go. Very similar like type like sales pitch when it comes to the timeshares, because they know you're not going to really go stay there, and you're not going to like use all the benefits or whatever that come with it, and it's not even going to be like as great as they're making it out to be. And they know that you're probably not even going to be able to go there and stay at that place that they're like pushing on you so hard. They don't care if you use it. They don't care if it really benefits you. They're just selling you this idea of like the perfect scenario. And the chances are, even if you had the opportunity to go and stay at that place where they're selling you the timeshares, once you've stood there a few times, you're not even going to want to continue to keep going to that place. You're going to want to go and stay at other places and have other experiences. So signing up and like committing yourself to this particular timeshare where you're like isolated to staying at this place and just paying ongoing for this, and they make it very difficult for you to get out of this little like contract or agreement that you make with them, is just like one big scam. So do not fall in love with these, you know, these timeshares and them like trapping you into these type of situations. Do not fall for it whatsoever. It's a terrible way for you to spend your money. If you want to stay somewhere, just save up the money, pay for it, go stay there, have that experience, and never ever like agree to sign up or get involved with any timeshare whatsoever. It's a very terrible way for you to spend your money. Hey, what's up you guys? So in this video, we're going to be talking about the big three of personal finance. So what exactly is the big three? So the big three is the average everyday person's 3 biggest and largest expenses on a month-to-month basis, or even on an annual basis. So we're going to be touching on each one of those categories, and we're going to talk about each one and explain what are some things that you could do to minimize, you know, your expenses in each one of those categories. So ultimately you could then take this advice, minimize your expenses in those categories, allowing you to keep more of your hard-earned income, and then ultimately you're going to be able to take that leftover income that is now excess cash flow for you, and you're going to be able to use that income to then create more wealth for yourself, so then ultimately you can reach financial freedom. So with that being said, look right here on the bottom right side of the screen, find that red subscribe button if you're not already subscribed to the channel. Give that red subscribe button a quick tap for me, so that way you'll get notified each and every time I upload a video. And with that being said, let's go ahead and get right into today's video. Alright you guys, so when it comes to the big three, the largest expense by far for most people, I'm sure there's people where, you know, there's an exception to the rule, but for most people, the largest expense starts off with housing. So housing is obviously the place that you call home, you know, with the place that you lay your head down at night, you know. So regardless of whether that's you renting a place or whether you are purchasing a place, that is ultimately your home, the place that you call home. So what can you do in this category to minimize your expenses so that way you keep more of your hard-earned income? So we're gonna have to break this down into two parts. So if you're renting, the very best advice that I could give you is when you are first initially setting out to find that place, once you've found a reasonable place that, you know, suits your needs, regardless whether it's you as an individual or you and your family, just find a place that fits you guys in there, that's safe. It doesn't have to be the greatest neighborhood, you know, and then a property that is massive and you have all these extra rooms and the property is extremely upgraded and all that. What you want to find is a property that basically provides your basic needs and that is in a safe neighborhood, and that when you talk to whoever is renting out that property, whoever's managing it, that the rental price that you're going to be paying on a month to month is going to be very reasonable when it comes to your personal budget. So that's going to obviously vary from person to person. So when you look at your income personally and you say, okay, this is what my rent is going to be every single month, as long as that, you know, rent dollar amount is very small in comparison to the income that you're earning, and you are leaving yourself a lot of excess income left over on a month-to-month basis, then you are making a very solid decision, because you're going to need a lot more of your income for things way beyond just rent, you know. And that should go without being said, but nevertheless, this is the approach that you got to take, because, you know, not everybody knows this information. So this is exactly why I'm putting it out there. If you want to make, and it's very easy to get carried away when you're out there looking at properties and you're like, oh, look at this one, you know, it's in a really great neighborhood, and oh, it has the very best schools, and it has, you know, all these features, and oh, I'm gonna have all these extra space and all this everything, but it comes at a price. The rent price is going to be very high. And the same is true if you are purchasing a home. It's very easy once you know you're out there pre-qualified and you're looking at homes and stuff, and you might start off looking at your budget on the lower end, and then once realtors have shown you, you know, properties on the higher end of your budget, it's very easy to get carried away and be like, oh, you know, look at all the upgrades and look at this just amazing neighborhood and look at all this type of stuff, and now you're just carried away and you are there maxing out your housing budget. And it's yes, the home might be amazing and great and all that, but at the end of the day, you are stretching yourself extremely thin, if not over your budget, when it comes to just the category of purchasing a home. So the very best thing you could do, very similar, just you know, if you were the one renting the property, is you just want to find a home that fits and suits the needs of you or your family, if you're, you know, obviously if you have a family. And then as long as it is fitting you, and you know, it's not a junky place, and like I said, it fits your needs, you're in a safe overall neighborhood, and you know, that's it. You basically just want the basics, and you want to try to find a home that when you are making that purchase, that that your monthly payment for that home is going to be, again, very, very affordable on you, based on your individual budget, because you're the one that has to make that, you know, monthly mortgage payment. So when you look at that monthly mortgage payment based on, you know, your monthly income, it's as long as you can make that payment very comfortably and still have a large amount of your monthly income left over to pay a lot of other things, and even after you pay those other things, that you're going to still have even then in excess of free cash every single month, then you are looking definitely in the right direction, because Obviously, you could afford that and still have plenty of money left over even after you pay your other expenses. So this is the general approach you want to take when it comes to the housing category. So that way you can minimize your expenses as much as possible in this category and keep more of your hard-earned income. All right, so out of this list of the big three, the second biggest expense for most people comes down to transportation. And hey, I get it. We all need transportation of some kind. Now, I'm not trying to suggest that everyone, take public transportation or that you even walk or ride a bike, because it's just not practical for most people. Now, if you are in that type of situation where that is both practical and that it makes sense for you and that you even choose that you want to do it, then hey, that is a really awesome way to go. And I would say, hey, go for it, because you're going to save a ton of money. And then, like I said, the whole purpose is for you to keep more of your hard-earned income. So ultimately, with that excess income, you're going to be able to use it to build your net worth and ultimately reach financial freedom. So on a practical level, for the rest of us that don't have that type of situation, what could we do? So my very best advice to you is find a good used car that is like a few years old, maybe 4 or 5 years old, very low miles. Go out there, purchase that car for yourself. If you could do it in cash, great. If you can't, then hey, finance the car, and make sure that when you are doing this, obviously this is going to be a car, based on your income level. So for someone who makes $200,000 a year, for them to pay $500 a month is not a big deal. For someone who makes $2,000 or $3,000 a month, to pay $500 a month is a very big deal. So you need to go out there and use your own best judgment and say, okay, based on the income that I make, and don't go off your gross income, go off of like your net income that you bring home, that goes into your bank account. And when you look at like purchasing this vehicle and say, okay, after I make this car payment and after I've already made, my house payment or your rent and all these other expenses that you have, all your utilities, all these other things, is this a very affordable payment? Does it fit very well into your overall expenses in your life? And if the answer is like no, because the more that I spend in this category is ultimately going to leave me with a lot less, income, or it's going to like stretch my budget very tight, that's a very good clue and indicator that, hey, like you're looking at spending too much, on a vehicle. All you need is a very practical car. You're not looking to flex here. You're looking to get a good, reliable car that has low miles, that's going to last you a good, set of years, probably like 7 to 10 years. It doesn't mean you got to keep it that long, but you're purchasing a vehicle that can, like, in theory, last that long to you based on like the quality of a vehicle that you're buying. Because you're going to buy a vehicle that's only a couple years old and that still has a very low miles, and you're going to get it at a very reasonable price, and the monthly payment is going to be very reasonable for you to pay based on your income. And if you do this, then you're going to have a very economical car for you. It's going to get you from point A to point B without costing you a lot of money on a month-to-month basis, and this is going to allow you to keep more of your hard-earned income, and then ultimately, because you are keeping more, then you have more of your hard-earned income to use to grow your net worth, so ultimately you can reach financial freedom. All right, you guys, so we're at number 3 out of the big 3. So what is the third biggest expense for the average everyday person? Well, it comes down to their food cost. So, and I get it, when it comes to food, food is very expensive, especially if you want to eat and buy good food that is both, it tastes good and it's good for you. And I'm not even talking about like out to eat food, restaurant or drive-through food or anything like that, or getting food delivered to you. I'm talking about going into a grocery store, purchasing that food, coming home and making it, and it is still very expensive if you go that route. So I'm not trying to say, hey, you're going to spend a little bit of money if you do what I'm saying in this video, but I'm saying, what could we do on a practical level to spend less than if we took a different approach, and at the same time, we would still not jeopardize our health by, purchasing food that is going to be very bad or just very low in dollar value, but at the same time, it's going to be very unhealthy for us. So, because that is not the goal, because we all should know, and I hope you guys do realize, health is wealth. Because if you have money, but you don't have your health, then you really don't have anything, because you're not even going to be around to ever see that wealth. So the goal is not to spend a little, the goal is to get something really great and then have a great overall experience for, lesser than if you took a different approach. So how do we save money in this category of our food costs? So what you want to do to just minimize your costs as much as possible is And I know it's not like the sexy thing to say, but you want to plan out your meals. Like, you want to be smart about it, because if you go grocery shopping with no plan, you're going to go right in and you're going to walk into that grocery store blind with no, like, premeditated plan and no strategy on exactly what you're going to buy, and you're going to overspend terribly, because you got to realize, like, these companies are very, very, very great at marketing. So you're going to go through that store and everything is going to look so cool to you, and it's going to look good, and you're going to be like, oh, I want to try that, and oh man, I want that. And you didn't like want any of those things before you went into that store, but with very clever marketing, you are going to be like pulled in so many different directions to purchase a lot of different things that you might not even actually end up eating, or is not even going to be good for you, but you're just going to end up, because of the marketing, you're going to purchase it. And it's a bunch of unnecessary items that you do not need. So you want to be very strategic by creating a meal plan for the week. So I would say, whatever, like, let's just say for the example of this video, you say, okay, I'm going to go grocery shopping on Sunday, and I'm going to have my food for Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And then you give yourself like the flexibility to say, hey, I'll go out to eat on Saturday and Sunday. So you would come up with the particular meals that you're going to eat throughout the week. When you go to the grocery store, you obviously want to create this list before you ever go to the grocery store. So then that way, when you go into the grocery store, now you're just going to stick true to your list and buy all the items that you need in order to make those meals for the week. And then you just stick true to your list, purchase only those items, obviously come home, make your meals for the, each and every single day based off of whatever you plan on eating, throughout that week and for that day. You just each day cook the meal accordingly for that day. Hey, switch it up, move it around, however, change it up week by week. It doesn't matter. I'm not trying to restrict you to eating some certain kind of food for a certain kind of day or some kind of meal plan, but it's just a meal plan in the sense that you are just planning out exactly what you're going to eat, and that you are purchasing only the things that you need to make those meals. So that way you're not just out there like buying excess items that you don't need. You're not wastefully spending. That is the whole purpose. And if you do this in the category of your food costs, you're going to dramatically reduce how much money you are spending when it comes to your food costs in general. And I'm suggesting that you could even leave yourself, the flexibility to go out on the weekend. Now, if you just cut out that completely and you just say, no, I'm always going to cook at home, you're going to keep even more of your hard-earned income. And that is exactly the whole point, to minimize your food costs as much as possible while still getting good food that tastes great and that is good for you. And then it's like a win-win. You're getting really good food, having a great overall experience, not jeopardizing your health, keeping more of your hard-earned income. And then the whole point of this, through all three of these categories of the big three, is to save as much money as you can in all these categories. And then with that leftover income that is all free and clear, you are going to turn around and then use that free and clear income to invest into assets that are going to grow your net worth and ultimately help you reach financial freedom. So hey, look, if you guys made it to this video and you have not already dropped a comment down in the comment section below, and you're not already currently subscribed to this channel, be sure to hit that red subscribe button. Drop me your comments down in the comment section below. I'd love to get your guys' thoughts and your overall feedback on this video. If you guys have any tips or tricks that you guys use to save on like your housing costs, or on like your food costs, or like your transportation costs, be sure to drop those down in the comment section below. Alright you guys, so in today's video, what we're going to be going over is exactly what you want to be doing with your finances and your money if you're very unconfident about your financial situation headed into a recession, or when you find yourself like we are currently, smack dab right in the middle of a recession. So what you want to do is exactly this. So what you want to start off doing with, first and foremost, I'm assuming you have a job. Like, we got to start there. Like, to put this video in context, we're not talking about if you're already unemployed or you've already been let go. We're going from the standpoint like you currently have a job, and for the foreseeable future you expect to have this job. Now, obviously things can happen, you might get let go, all that, but that's exactly what this video is for, so we'll cover all that in a minute. So what you want to do to protect yourself financially headed into a recession, or when you find yourself in a recession, is that you want to make sure that first and foremost you're cutting out all necessary like expenses and like spending whatsoever. So like, we're not talking about spending money on literally anything that you do not need to. So first and foremost, we're starting there. No unnecessary spending. Now, what do you want to do next? You want to take care of your mandatory living expenses. So this is like obviously the things that you need month in and month out to survive, paycheck to paycheck, each and every single month, no matter what, you need these things. So this is like your rent, your mortgage, your car payment, whatever, your insurance, food, lights, water, gas, utilities, all of that. So you're going to take care of those things because these are mandatory things that you need to survive each and every single month. Basically for you to just continue to live like your lifestyle. We're not talking about things like going out to eat or going shopping or anything like that. We're just simply talking about just your bare minimum essential things for you to survive, right? Because we're trying to go and put you in a financial situation where you could withstand, and ride out a recession and not basically find yourself falling flat on your face from a financial standpoint or get just devastated during a recession. So that's what all of these steps in this video are, to help you and protect yourself from a financial standpoint in a recession. So what do you want to do next after you've taken care of home and you've cut out all this unnecessary expenses all out completely? So what you want to do next is you want to say, all right, I am truly living at my income or significantly below my income, because you're not spending anything that you don't need to be spending it. And ideally, if you're doing this right, you should not be spending all of your income, because you're not going out, you're not having fun, you are not in that type of financial situation to be doing those things. So right now, you're just simply taking care of home, paying for the things that are your mandatory living expenses. And then after that, you're going to now look at whatever debts you have. This is not the time for you to say, hey, I want to, pay off my debts so I could have more free and clear income. This is not the time for that. You're not in that type of financial situation. What you're going to want to do when it comes to your debts is you want to say, all right, if these are debts, so ideally you want to talk to these people who you are indebted to, if they're creditors, from a credit card or some other type of, whatever type of debt you find yourself into, and you want to try to talk to these creditors and ask them hey, is there anywhere I could put this debt on hold right now? Because, I'm not in a currently strong financial situation, and maybe you could put that, those debts on hold for a minute, and then you could come back to them, once you're in a stronger financial situation. Or if they won't work with you, then simply just make the minimum payments on those debts, so then that way you don't tear up your credit or anything like that, or cause yourself to damage your credit or damage yourself any worse financially, because you don't want those debts to accumulate. That's just going to work against you, and why would we want something like that? So when it comes to your debts, don't worry about paying any additional amounts of money onto those debts. Just pay the minimum monthly payments on those debts. If those creditors won't work with you, to delay or put those debts that you owe them on hold. So what do you want to do next after after dealing with your debts? So the next what you want to do is say, okay, here I am living beneath my expenses. I'm just taking care of home. Now what's next? So what you're going to do is you want to look at your emergency fund. And I hope all of you who are watching this video already have some type of an emergency fund. If not, at least just getting started on building one. But if it's okay if you don't, hey, at one point I didn't have an emergency fund either, and I had to learn this the hard way. I had to fall flat on my face and struggle and ask people for money and things like that. And thank God I learned it, and now I do have my emergency fund in place. So what you want to do next is you want to start or continue to add to your emergency fund until you, at the very minimum, you want to have 3 months of your mandatory living expenses. Ideally, you would like to have more, but just so that way you don't spend too much time on this, you basically want to say, okay, whatever your mandatory monthly living expenses are, let's just go with a simple case of your mandatory living expenses are $3,000 a month. So once you've paid all your mandatory living expenses, it equals up to $3,000 a month. So then you would say, all right, I need to put 3 months of those mandatory living expenses to the side in some type of savings account or wherever it is that you want to store it. But ideally it would be something whatever bank that you bank with, you would create a separate bank account there, keep that money there, or maybe at a different bank, so it make it a little harder for you to tap into those funds. Because the idea is not to spend that on whenever something looks cool and you want to buy it. You want to make it a little more difficult for you to access those funds, so that way it actually has to be a scenario that is an emergency, like a financial emergency, and then you go access those funds when you need them. So that's what you want to do next. You want to start either creating an emergency fund and working on building up to that 3 to 6 months or even possibly more of an emergency fund, so then that way, let's say something happens, your job lets you go, you find yourself in tough times, maybe they cut your hours, whatever happens, you might get, a job demotion, whatever happens, but somehow your income gets impacted and you have income to fall back on, and you don't like fall flat on your face or get, financially destroyed when they let you go, with very short notice or no notice whatsoever. So that way you're able to protect yourself in the time that you are earning income, and you'll be able to ride out these rough times, during a recession. Because hey, the truth is, like, during recessionary type periods of time, this is when companies look for, hey, how could we cut back, lower our expenses, and continue to either grow our company or just ride out these rough times. So that's what you want to do. You want to say, all right, let me go ahead, start protecting myself from a financial standpoint by creating an emergency fund for myself. Try to ideally get 3 to 6 months. And once you've done that, the next thing you want to do is you want to say, okay, well, the job that I have right now, the chances are, like, there's room for you to improve your skill set in that particular job field. Or what you want to do, so then ideally, like, you would, like, the whole purpose behind that is because typically if you move up, you make more money, right? So you either want to, ultimately, like, that's the goal. The next step that you want to do is make more money, because the more money that you can make is, like, you're only going to be in a stronger financial position. You're going to have more money to work with. You're earning more money. Your expenses are low. It puts you in a stronger financial position. And that's what we want to see you in. Low expenses, higher income, more free and clear money, more peace of mind, right? So that's ideally what you want to do, is you want to start looking at, like, what is it going to take for you to do to start earning more money. I mean, for some people that might be like, hey, you want to go the route of, like, all right, I'm just going to try to work more, or I'm going to volunteer and see, like, hey, if I could work more, pick up some extra hours, make some more money. And then ideally, you're not going to go out there and spend that money. You're going to save that money. You're going to build up even more of a reserve of cash, because you don't know, what's going to happen to your job. Like, they might let you go the following week or the next month, or, in 6 months. So you're in the, like, stage where you're looking to preserve as much income and cash as you possibly can. You're stockpiling cash at this point. So what you're trying to do is, like, look, like, how can I make more money? How can I get more income? So like I said, some people might look at, like, all right, I'm going to work more hours to, get more income. Or maybe if you can't work more hours, you might say, hey, I'm going to find me, like, a side hustle to do. Or, you might do something like, drive Uber, drive Lyft, or, deliver food, doing, like, the food delivery services, something like that, or, selling something online, whatever it is. You want to find some additional way to earn extra income. And if you don't want to do any of those ways, the next best advice that I could give you would be something like saying, okay, let me invest in myself and in my skill set, so then that way you could, like, raise and increase your skill set in the marketplace, so you could have a very high level skill set that is very high in demand and will ideally always be in demand. So then that way, when companies are looking at letting go of people, they really don't want to let you go, because your skill set is a very, like, high and in demand type of skill set, and not very easy to replace. Because I mean, okay, like, nothing against, like, cashiers, or nothing against, like, someone who bags groceries, but I mean, the truth is, like, you can let any one of those people go, and then whenever you need some more, you could just say, hey, let me show you how to bag groceries. Let me show you how to be a cashier. And it's like, your skill set is basically so low that, they're very replaceable. And I mean, come on, like, you see, the reality is, like, now they have self-checkout and things like that. So it's like, that kind of tells you the direction, companies are going with this. So this is why it's so important. You want to make yourself as valuable as possible when it comes to your skill set, in the financial world and in the marketplace, because the higher your skill set, the more your skills are going to be in demand. And it also is going to mean that you're going to earn a higher income and be harder and harder for companies to replace you. And that's the position you want to be in. You want to be in a position of strength, not a position of weakness. And when companies, like I said, are looking at cutting back and things like that, they're really not going to be looking at you. And even if some company does let you go, maybe they just simply can't afford to keep you, but some other company will go ahead and take you on, because they're like, hey, that skill set, we really need that, that position. We need to go ahead and bring them on, so we can, like, our company can continue to do well. So hey, now you guys know exactly what to do with your finances, and what type of actions and decisions and choices you need to make for yourself. So then that way, if you see, like, that you're headed into a recession, or you are, like we are, smack dab in the middle of a recession, and you're worried about the financial situation that you're in, and you want to be able to ride out a recession and not have it just devastate you from a financial standpoint. So now you know, hey, these are the things that I should do with my money and with my time so I can make sure that I come out on the other end of a recession without being devastated. Hey, what's up you guys? So in this video, we're going to be going over a few different things that you could instantly start doing, so then that way you will be a much better spender with your money, and ultimately by doing these things you're going to spend your money more efficiently and you're going to keep more of your hard-earned income, but not just so that way you can have more money to spend, but so then that way ultimately that leftover income you can then turn around and start investing, so then that way you could begin to grow and build your net worth for yourself and ultimately one day reach financial freedom. So with that being said, I want you to do me one huge favor. Look right here on the right side of that screen, find that red subscribe button, give that red subscribe button a quick tap for me so that way YouTube will notify you each and every time I upload a video. And with that being said, let's go ahead and get right into it. Alright you guys, so one of the quickest and simplest changes that you can make right away to just your overall spending monthly, so that way you instantly become a better spender, is that you're going to focus primarily on only spending your money on items that are necessities, you know, things that you must have to function month in and month out, or from pay period to pay period, right? So basically what you want to do is you want to focus on only buying your needs and avoiding spending any money that is unnecessary on wants. Alright, so the reason why we want to focus on spending our money only on our needs and not on our wants is because we want to create as big of a possible gap between our expenses monthly and how much money we have left over. And the only way we're going to create this gap is by cutting out whatever things or whatever expenses are possible that we can eliminate on a monthly basis. So that way, like I said, we have some leftover income. And a really great way to do this is to only focus your spending on things that you absolutely must buy in order for you to function month in and month out. So am I saying like, hey, you have to do this forever? No, but you do want to do this for, you know, a short period of time. So then that way you can, you know, maybe focus on like eliminating debt if you are in debt, or while you are also doing this, you can also focus on growing your income. And then maybe when you have a higher income, you can then, you know, afford to be able to spend a little money on like entertainment and things like that. But until you reach this phase, or until you reach that phase rather, this is where you want to focus on. You want to try to create a large gap between the amount of money that you are earning and the amount of money that you are spending. So until then, you want to focus like this. You want to focus on spending your money only on your absolute necessities, and you want to eliminate any spending on any of your wants because they're not essential. You don't have to go out and buy things that you want. But like I said, when you're in a stronger financial situation and you are doing much better and you are already working on growing and building your wealth and things like that, well then you can, you know, start to like entertain yourself a little bit. But like I said, first and foremost, we want to, you know, we're not there yet, and that's ultimately later, that's going to be our goal. But for right now, we just want to primarily focus on only spending our income on our absolute necessities and cutting out any unnecessary spending that would be going towards our wants. Alright, so another thing that you want to do to make sure that you are being smart with your money is that you want to avoid spending money on buying items or products in bulk or in large amounts just because you could get a better overall deal on the more that you buy of that item. So this is like really common, you know, when you shop at like club type stores where you need a membership just to go ahead and, you know, have access to their store. And yes, albeit that, you know, you can get some really great deals on items, especially when you buy them in bulk, but that does not mean just because, hey, I could get like a really great deal on buying like, you know, a very large quantity of something means that I should go ahead and spend the money on buying that item just because I could get a great deal on buying it in bulk. Because if it does not make sense for me, I mean, that might be a great deal, but just because the item is a great deal, what if I'm not going to be able to use all of that item? Or what if I don't even use that item at all? Just because I got a great deal on it and I go ahead and spend that money on it, well, now that's basically money that I've wasted because that item is of no use to me, or I can never use as much of it as I would need to ultimately have realized the deal, you know, or to have gotten the bargain on it. So like I said, avoid spending money on buying items in bulk unless it makes sense for you. Like, yes, if the item is something that you use frequently or that you know you will use all of that item and you have a chance to buy it in bulk, well, that's the smart decision to then buy in bulk. But if that's not the case, avoid buying items in bulk when it doesn't make sense for you. Alright you guys, so the next thing that you want to focus on when you're out there spending your income, you know, making these purchases each and every single month, you want to focus on spending your money on quality items, not quantity of items. So, also, this also ties into the next part I was going to mention here, where is that you want to focus on buying quality brand name. Like, I don't mean popular brand names, because there's a very big difference between an item or a brand being popular by name and that item also being, you know, of a quality. So the key, what I want you to focus on here is the quality. Yes, we're not worried about like the popular branding. We're focused on the quality. So you want to buy from brands that are known for producing quality products, products that have a long lifespan based on what, that particular item is supposed to do. So if you're buying a tool, for example, if you go spend, just a couple dollars trying to be cheap and then you use that tool and it breaks, well, it's like, did that really save you money by spending less instead of buying the more quality? And typically quality tends to be a little more expensive, but it's not always the case. Maybe it might be a tad bit more expensive. You might have bought a tool for $5 and it broke on you, and you could have maybe spent $7 or $8 and it would have lasted you years. And because you were trying to save $3, it cost you the whole $5 because you already spent that money buying that bad tool and trying to be cheap, and then ultimately now you have to go back, and then because you've got that bad experience, if you're smart, you'll go back and buy the quality tool that's going to last you. So now you spent the 5 plus the 8, so it cost you $13 when it could have just cost you 8. So with that being said, that's what I'm trying to get at. Ultimately, you need to focus on buying quality items from companies and brands that are known of producing quality products that will last time for you, that have a long lifespan, and ultimately by spending your money on quality brands, quality products that will last you a while, means your money is going to last a further amount of time rather than trying to be cheap. Because when you try to be cheap basically means you are focused solely on the dollar amount that you're going to spend. So in doing so, typically being cheap costs you a lot more than just the money at the initial time of buying. Because like, here's a really good example. If you try to say, hey, I'm going to try to save a whole lot of money on, my monthly spending when it comes to, spending money on like your groceries, and you say, okay, I'm not gonna buy no food like that is really of like any cost. I'm just gonna buy something like Top Ramen. I'm gonna eat Top Ramen all month, each and every single month. Well, yes, your total cost is gonna be cheaper in terms of like dollar value. You're gonna spend very little money because Top Ramen is probably like 3 packs for $1 or 4 packs for $1 or something like that, right? At least here in like Southern California, that's what it goes for. So if you go ahead and do that and you're like, all right, I'm just gonna eat Top Ramen like all month long, dollar wise, you're gonna spend very little, but there's like also a hidden cost there that type of food is like very packed with like tons of salt and a bunch of other ingredients and things that are not going to be good for you, of not very much quality. It's just quantity, right? Like you just get a lot for a little bit of money, but it's not really a lot. It's more of like an illusion. You just get quantity but not very much value, and because of that, it's going to cost you a lot more than just the amount of money that you spent on that food or that Top Ramen. It's going to end up costing you thousands of dollars or tens of thousands of dollars when it comes to your health. And that's not something that you can necessarily buy back, but you're going to be trying to like ultimately deal with the ramifications or, the problems that came about because you ate that way, and now you have like significant health problems because you were trying to be cheap. So when you are trying to be cheap, it ultimately costs you a lot more. So the goal here is not to focus on being cheap, but to spend your money smart and efficiently by spending your money on things that you need, that things are going to last, buying from quality, reputable brands and companies that offer quality products that are going to last you for a long time, so your money is going to be well spent. So hey, if you guys did not already hit the like button earlier, look right here beneath the video, find that thumbs up button, give that thumbs up button a quick tap for me. Also, if you didn't hit the subscribe button earlier, look right here on the bottom right side of your screen, find that red subscribe button, give that red subscribe button a tap, so that way YouTube will notify you each and every time I upload a video.